Hi, I'm Heather.
And I'm Haley.
And we're the Whodunnit Sisters, a Kansas City true crime podcast. We spoke with the founders of Corey's Network, a nonprofit organization.
And they let us know the insides and outs of it.
They're very great people. It was
heartfelt. Oh my God, Robert was freaking funny. So I know you'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Every family that we've interviewed, they've all said that they couldn't imagine doing this without you guys, that you guys are so important to them.
That's good to hear. We try it. We started this and neither one of us knew what we were doing and how we were going to do it. And it just kind of clicked and started working out. So here we are.
And the community thanks you for it.
I've learned how to be very, very outspoken over this process because you just kind of learn different skills throughout this. You just kind of say, well, there's nobody else to do it, so you need to be as outspoken as possible. So that's what we've done. So
yeah, and I never talk at all.
The media calls him Silent Bob.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For real.
Oh, huh.
And to be honest, you're probably the first media source that's going to have him talking on camera.
Huh.
You guys should feel lucky. You guys should feel lucky.
Yeah. We do. We do.
We kind of took on a united front from the very beginning so that there wouldn't be any conflicting information that went out to the media. So I was the one who spoke to the media at all times. And originally it was going to be Bob, but then I just kind of jumped in from the very beginning and started talking. So
yeah, I had my mouth open to say my very first word and she was like on it. I was like, oh, okay, let me move to the back and stand there and look cute.
He does it well. He does.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does that look cute thing, but he's very organized and very he's very efficient at making sure that everything is covered at all times. So he's the organized one, and I'm the social worker with my desk that's all messy and disorganized and everything else. So he does the background stuff and I do the talking. So perfect union as far as that's concerned. What were you going to say, Bob? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, well, okay. Let me talk then. Yeah, that's what we do.
You guys work really well together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because sometimes it's like, shouting into the ocean. You don't think anybody's listening and you don't think anybody's really paying attention. You know how it is. Work on the internet and you just stick stuff out there and hope it sticks, and you talk to people and hope they're listening, and it's tough. And for every one of those families that you guys have talked to, we've got 20, 30, 40 more.
Right.
And you really don't realize until you get involved how bad it is. And I'd done social work for 25 years before this happened. And I'd worked with abused and battered women, and I'd run 2 shelters for those abused and battered women. I'd investigated sexual abuse. I'd worked in a residential facility for adjudicated youth. I was a program manager for the family courts doing that. I worked with Missouri Department of Corrections, and I'd run the truancy and dropout prevention department for the Kansas City, Missouri School District. And at the time Corey was killed, I was teaching at a local career college, Wright Career College. I was teaching psychology, critical thinking, and sociology. And so I'd been doing this a long, long time. And I made sure that my kids knew how to do karate. I taught them about, right and wrong, and all of your social rights and wrongs. I taught them about, diversity and equality, and just women's rights and everything that you could possibly have thought of. And we obviously come from a diverse family here. And so that was the kind of family that Corey was brought up in, was a family that just loved each other and took care of each other, and etc. And, to have something like this come into our family was very shocking, even to me and to Bob. You don't expect to live in a house for 15 years. You pay your bills, you do everything you're supposed to do, and you expect and accept everyone for who they are, and you love everyone. And I used to treat prisoners the same way that I would treat the president of a company. And it didn't make any difference to me, because they were humans, and they had a right to all of the same care and affection and courtesy as anyone else. And here's somebody that kills my son. And so obviously I couldn't go back to the same career that I had after 25 years. And I had just recently gotten my master's in organization development psychology. And Bob and I sat back and we said, obviously you're not going to be able to work with prisoners. You're not going to be able to work with juvenile delinquents. You're not going to be able to work with drug dealers or rapists or thieves or murderers or any of that other stuff. I couldn't return to where I was teaching, because if they didn't have me as an instructor, they had Corey as a schoolmate, because Corey actually went to school where I worked. So I couldn't go back to where I was working. So my career was gone. So we sat down and said, how can we use my new master's degree and all of my experience and be able to help the people that we were watching on television? And because once this happens and you start watching the news, you see every person who is struggling just like you. And you say, there's another mom whose son has been murdered. There's another father. There's another woman whose husband's been murdered, or another woman whose mom's been murdered. It goes at every angle. And you can't just sit there and say, well, I could do something about that, and I chose not to. And so we then started talking between him and I, and he's been my biggest champion and my biggest supporter in all of this. And I said, this is what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to be able to start working with the people that are going through the same things that I'm going through, that we're going through. And, and at first I really didn't give him as much credit as I should have, because he's Corey's stepdad. And he'd known Corey for 10 years, but, even as a step parent, you go through a great deal of grief. And he didn't express it the same way that I expressed it, but he was still there. And I'd be at Big Biscuit here in Kansas City, or Independence actually, and I would just start crying at the table, and he'd reach over and grab a napkin and say, here, honey, do what you need to do. And I would be sitting there bawling, and everyone else in the place wouldn't understand what was going on. And he'd just do what you have to do. And that was his way of grieving. So I said, what I want to be able to do is be able to reach those people in the community that are hurting like us. and help them understand that not everybody grieves the same. If you and I can be in the same house grieving for the same person and not grieve the same, we need to do that for the people in our community and help them understand. And so we called together, what was it, like 15 of our closest friends and neighbors?
Yeah. And then some people just kind of showed up. But let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
She came to me with this idea, what she wanted to do. And we're only like a year after, not even a year after Corey's died.
He died in July, and
yeah.
we did this in like April.
Yeah. So she comes to me with this idea, and I'm like, have you lost your mind? Are you totally nuts? Have you totally lost it? But the more, we sat and talked about it and thought about it, it seemed like something that we could actually pull off. And then we just kind of methodically did it. And the first thing we did, like she was going to say, is we called together a meeting of people who we thought might be interested in what we were doing. And then it just kind of took off from there. Well, after we had meeting after meeting after meeting, week after week after week, to do our bylaws and all that kind of stuff. But after we got that part done, it was easy.
But we brought them together, and I had a PowerPoint, and we bought them their lunch. We sat them there, and they kind of sat there frozen like he did the first time I brought it up to him, and they all kind of had their eyeballs great big, like, okay, she's lost her ever-loving mind.
We all thought she was nuts.
And there's a real good possibility that I still am nuts. But I said, what we would like to do is, our mission is to provide immediate support and advocacy to the surviving victims of homicide. And that would be to include connections to counseling, to help them understand the investigation and the court process, to help them navigate the media, and to help pay for funerals. And when I said help pay for funerals, all of them put their forks down and looked at me like, what the hell are you going to do? How are you going to do that? So I immediately enrolled into my second master's degree, which was in fundraising. So I got my master's in fundraising 7 months after that.
Good
So thank you. So we, like he said, we sat down with these same individuals. They said, okay, we'll give it a try, like a whole bunch of deer in blind headlights. They said, we'll do our best for you because we love you. But then they sat down and they really hit the grindstone. I mean, they learned the laws on crime victims compensation. They learned how to be advocates. My sister went through the police academy for citizens. We had 4 different treasurers before we finally found one that could actually do our books. We had so many different things. And then the college that Corey was going to graduate from graduated him posthumously and gave us our first big donation. And that was where we started actually being able to provide a small stipend for our clients to be able to help them pay for their funerals. And so far we're real close to about a little over 350 funerals that we've helped pay for.
Oh,
That's
amazing.
amazing.
And it's been 8 years. We've been a nonprofit 501c3 since June of 2014, which means that it was under a year since Corey was murdered, because he was murdered in July of 2013, and in June of 2014 we were incorporated and we had our 501c3.
That is amazing.
So that's our long short story of it. We've gone on to start our Grief to Relief program, which is a 5-week seminar, and it's a rotating 5-week seminar. So you don't have to stop at the end of 5 weeks. You can continue, and it's every Monday night. I'm an old-time social worker, so that means I work the social system to meet the need of the client, which means that I am not a grief counselor in any way, shape, or form. I've never claimed to be a grief counselor. I am not somebody that you'd want to sit down with and try to work out all your grief issues with. But what I can do is I can refer you to some really good grief counselors. So what we do is grief is an acronym for G is for groups. We can refer you to all the different groups in the area. And we try to make sure that we're on top of what groups are available. Because if Corey's Network is not the group to help you, there's a group out there that can. R is for reporters. We've got really great relationships with the different reporters in the area. We believe that devilifying the media is an important part of the process, so that the people that are in this area can talk to the media and understand that the media can actually help you solve the crime.
Mm-hmm.
I is for investigation, so that means that those are the individuals that are in the police force or in the investigation portion. So they would be people like Captain Babcock, right, that was at our vigil the other day. He's done this quite often, where he will talk to them about what their rights are, what their responsibilities are, and how best to communicate with their investigator.
And he was one of those that was at our initial meeting as well.
Yeah, he was at our very first meeting, so he's been with us from the beginning. And he was one of those with the deer in the headlight look, like, yeah, right, they're going to do this. And I've spoken to him since, and he didn't think we were going to be around this long.
Nobody thought we'd be around this long.
Nobody thought we'd be around this long. E is for enforcement, and that's working with the court systems. So that means we bring in prosecuting attorneys so that people will understand what the court process is going to look like. Because it is not like NCIS, it's not like SVU, it's not like any of the TV shows.
Perry Mason.
It's not like Perry Mason, right?
You
It's
guys
not like
don't know who Perry Mason is, do you?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes.
but it's not like any of those. So we bring in actual prosecuting attorneys that actually know what's going on with the people's cases and can talk to them about why it's not going forward at the moment, or what the next step is going to be for their particular case. They can also explain to them why it's been put off, a few times, etc. It kind of deflates some of the anxiety that they're feeling about what's going on with their case. And then the F stands for forward. We do not believe in any kind of closure. We don't believe in any kind of getting over or moving on with your life. We do believe in moving forward. And what the difference is moving on is like leaving something behind. Moving forward is being able to carry it with you and being able to still grow. So that's kind of the grief to relief in a nutshell. And then in 2020, we weren't able to do our normal unsolved homicides vigil, which was just the people in our group that were regulars. We invited them out to do an unsolved vigil, and it would be about 20 or so people that would come out, and they would get together with us, and they would come out, and it would be a nice vigil, and people would hand out flyers and etc. And it was really nice. But then COVID came, and we couldn't do that. So what we ended up doing was what you saw this last weekend, which was printing out all of the reward flyers and being able to share those starting on Friday morning. We started this year at 6 a.m. Friday morning, and we finished 10 o'clock on Sunday evening. And we have identified, at this point, is about 700 because there have been more that came up over
Yeah, I did 20 the week after
after the
the
vigil.
vigil. I do those, and I had to cut. At some point, you have to cut it off. You can't do any more to display because you have to get them printed, and then I have to work with Shelley Schumann who puts them on the sticks. So I cut it off in June, and didn't make any more. And when I came back to look at what had happened between June and August, there were 20 more.
So we displayed 680, but there are now 700 unsolved homicides that we're actually honoring through Corey's network. And Bob sits down and reads the newspaper, tries to do the fact checking. Out of those 680 that we identified, there were 10 of them that came back as, oh, this one's solved. But still, when you look at it, 10 out of 680, that's still like 0.06%, something like that.
There you go, doing your numbers. Look at you.
I know.
I'm so proud of you.
Math. I hate math. You have no idea. So it's a really low amount, though, of an error rate. And that's just one person going over those 700 individuals. And we still only work with 9 board members. They're not the original 9, but they're still 9 members. And we still vote every single time a client comes in. And the other portion that we have is we introduced a way that we do a referral throughout the entire city, where, like I said, we don't think that we're the only program that can answer your questions. So if you do a referral to us, we put it onto our website. So if you go onto our website, and if you want me to in a minute, I can share my screen and show you. But if you do a referral to our website, at the very bottom of it, it says, we work in conjunction with other programs. Do we have your permission to share your information? If you say yes, then it automatically goes to Ad Hoc Group Against Crime, Mama on a Mission, Healing Pathways, Aim for Peace, Parents of Murdered Children, GLOW, Kansas Police Department, Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, the Independence Mayor's Office if it's an independence crime, and the Kansas City, Missouri Mayor's Office. So all of those places get it all at the exact same time. Then that way, Ad Hoc Group Against Crime can provide counseling for the adult, Healing Pathways for the child. Aim for Peace can do conflict resolution and mentoring. Parents of Murdered Children can do group counseling. So can GLOW, which is Grieving Loved Ones Workshop. So what it does is it creates this web of care around the person. And instead of the person having to go to the community and saying, can you help me? Instead, the community comes to them and says, I can help.
Wow. You guys are so amazing. I don't know what to say. I had no clue how much you guys did or do. No idea.
So now that I've talked my head off, my verbal vomit, what questions do you have?
I think when we speak with families, they always get stuck at the no return calls, from the police, and they don't know what to do with the next step. Like one family member, they sent some videos of evidence, and they say they didn't get it, or now some's missing, and so they came to me and they're like, well, what do I do?
Number one, communication should never be done over the phone. The reason why is if your police officer is doing their job, they're not going to be in their office. They should be out in the field. Okay. And if that is the case, they're not going to call you at midnight when they get back to the office. All communication should be over email. And some police officers are going to really bulk at that, and that's okay. Let them bulk at that. The reason that I say that is because their supervisor is not going to balk at that. I will tell you that I had a pile seriously about a foot tall of emails between me.
It
How
gets
tall would
taller.
you?
It gets taller as time goes on.
No, how tall would you say it was?
No, actually, it was a foot tall. It really was.
Okay.
Wow.
See, trying to make me into some kind of liar. Yeah, I know where you live, mister. So
It was, and she, I mean, she'd do it almost every day for a while, and then it petered back to a week. But they have to be consistent about it. You know, people have to be consistent about their communication. But go ahead, babe.
the thing is, though, is if you email someone, number one, you're creating a trail of evidence that you have done this. Okay. Number two, you have created a chain of evidence that you can now forward to their supervisor.
Okay.
Okay. On CorysNetwork.org, I don't know if you have found this, and I'm sure that you probably have, but on CorysNetwork.org, under our services page, over on the right-hand side, there is a list of crime victims' rights. There is a section 595209 of the Missouri Revised Statutes. And if you go under 595.200, that one states that if it is a homicide, murder, manslaughter, anything that results in the person dying, that the next of kin becomes the victim, number one. Okay? Number two, 595.209 states that the following rights shall automatically be afforded to victims of dangerous felonies as defined in this: victims murdered in the first degree, victims of voluntary manslaughter, and victims of attempt to commit one of the preceding crimes. And upon request, the following rights shall be afforded to victims of all other crimes and witnesses of crimes. For victims, the right to present all be present at all justice proceedings, and for victims, the right to information about the crime as provided in subdivision 5 of this subsection. And for victims and witnesses to be informed in a timely manner by the prosecutor's office of the filing of charges, preliminary hearings, trial dates, continuances, and all final dispositions of the case. And for the victim, the right to confer and to be informed by the prosecutor regarding bail hearings, guilty pleas, pleas under chapter blah, 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 or its successors, hearings, sentencings, and probation. So in other words, you have the right as a victim to have communication. And as a victim under 595.209 of the state codes and statutes in Missouri, and it's also under Kansas, but you have to look for it. I don't have that one off the top of my head. But under Missouri state's codes and statutes, you are the victim by inheritance.
Okay.
Okay, it's just like I'm an insurance agent. Okay, so if somebody dies, you are the survivor of that person, and you automatically get the survivor's benefits, right?
Right.
Okay, so when somebody is a victim of homicide, you are the survivor of that homicide. That's why we call them surviving victims.
Surviving victims. I like that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why we legally use that term, surviving victims of homicide. So when you think about that, when you're the surviving victim, you are the person who legally inherits that right. And if you have that right under 595.209, then you put that in your subject line when you email your police officer and say,
Subject line, okay.
According to State Code and Statute 595209, I have the right to information according to, in reference to my case.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Yes.
Secondly, if you send any evidence whatsoever, you keep a copy.
Yeah.
Don't ever
Mhm.
send all of it.
Right, yeah.
Okay, if you've got a videotape, make a copy for yourself. If you have got a picture, make sure you've got a copy for yourself. If you've got anything, make sure you've got a copy for yourself. That's the reason that I have a foot tall pile of papers, is because I've got copies of everything. Okay. The other part of it is police will completely ignore hearsay evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are talking about something that you received from another person, that person needs to be the one who gives that information to the police. And if they will not give it to the police, then you need to put it into tips yourself. Okay? And I know that sounds crazy, but tips is anonymous. Okay? They're not going to know who it came from. Put it into tips. Cut and copy it from your instant messages. Cut and copy it from whatever place you found it from. Put it in, because tips has a way for you to do it electronically now. And it does not have any way to find out what your IP address is. It doesn't have any way to find out where it came from. Put it in. And by law, they have to follow up on every tip from Crime Stoppers.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You guys are learning some stuff today.
Here we are. We're making notes.
We are.
Now you know why people that have worked with us say we couldn't have done this without that. Because I do not believe in a God that would have let Corey's murder go on, because the worst thing you can say to a murder victim is, God must have wanted this, or it wouldn't have happened, or this is in God's plan.
Right.
No,
Right.
it would never be in God's plan, or it would not have been one of God's top 10 do not do list, right?
Right.
He wouldn't have said way back with Moses, do not kill, if it was going to be part of his plan, right?
Right.
I do not believe in a God that wanted my son murdered, but I do believe in a God that knew it was going to happen. And I believe in a God that trained me for 25 years before my son was murdered to know how the court system worked, to have given me a father who was a cop for 33 years, to teach me how to investigate sexual abuse so I could be an investigator, to have taught me how to be in front of cameras, because I had been in front of cameras, and one that taught me how to be a college instructor so that I could teach people. I do believe in that God.
And the one that's sent him me.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Sent
Right.
to me.
Right.
To kind of even her out a little bit.
Right.
She gets too wild sometimes. Sometimes I have to kind of rein her in a little bit.
Sometimes he's got to tear me off of my soapbox and put me down on the ground. Yes. It's the only reason that I'm able to survive.
Right.
It really is. And it hurts, because Corey's murder was just July 28th was his 9th year. And I don't like to say that it's his anniversary. It's when we recognize his murder. It's not his anniversary. I don't believe that that's the way that you should really say. An anniversary is what Bob and I are going to recognize in a couple of weeks here, when we recognize our 19th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
19/1.
We got married after 18 years and 1 day of being together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had to make sure we were the right couple.
Definitely making sure. Don't fault you there at all.
Yeah, I had to make damn sure, because I've been married 3 other times and they didn't work out so well. So, yeah. So
Yeah, we took it
Sorry.
slow.
a lot of people are like, when does it stop hurting? When does it hurt less? When does it feel better? When does it doesn't. And I'm going to be real honest with the people that are listening to this. It's not going to. And I'm sorry that I have to be the bearer of that bad news. A lot of people are like, how can you talk about this in such a straight manner? But first of all, I'm not talking about Corey. I'm talking about what my goal is, which is to try and help other people stop hurting. I'm not talking about Corey himself. When I start talking about Corey himself, I start to tear up. But when it comes to Corey, it would be like me telling you that tomorrow, are you both married?
Yes.
Okay. Do you both have children?
Yes.
Okay. If I told you that tomorrow you're going to start carrying a 500-pound rock everywhere you go for the rest of your life, you would look at me and tell me I was nuts, right? But if I told you if you didn't carry that 500-pound rock, that your husbands would cease to exist and your children would cease to exist, you would somehow find a way to either drag it on a blanket or with a rope or in a wagon or whatever way you had to do it. And eventually you would shove that rock up on your shoulders and you'd be able to carry it. It's not the weight that changes, it's you. And that is the best way that I can describe it. The weight of Corey's murder has never changed, and it's never going to change. The way that we carry it is going to change. And the way that we are able to shoulder it, that's how it's going to change. And if it's helping 350 plus people bury their loved one, that's how it's going to change. Because, you know, he was a good kid. He was a giving kid. I have a tattoo right here. I'll show it to you in a minute. And Corey was 16, 17, somewhere in there. He went to go and visit his father. He had to go and visit his father every summer. And he knew it tore me up. But I had to drop him off at the airport because he had to go to Milwaukee. And when he went, I dropped him off and I went back to my house and went on my back porch. I went out just to get a breath of fresh air. And there on my porch was this huge heart in pink chalk. And in it, it said, "Dear Mom, I love you. I miss you. And I'll see you soon. Love, Corey." He knew I wasn't going to see that until he was gone. He knew it. And about 2 weeks after my son died, I found a letter that he'd written to me while he was in basic. And it said the exact same words. And I went online and I said, "Does anybody know a tattoo artist?" And this guy that I knew from junior high school instant messages me and he says, "If you're going to get a tattoo about Corey, if you use my tattoo artist, I will pay for it." So I got it for free on Corey's 23rd birthday, which is September the 16th of 2013. There you go. And it says, "Dear Mom, I love you. I miss you and I'll see you soon. Love, Corey." And that's his handwriting. And it was a note that he left just so that his mom would feel good. Not one that I was supposed to say thank you for, not one that I was supposed to gush over, nothing, just to make me feel good because he knew I was going to feel like crap when he left.
And
that was just him.
the tattoo guy ended up being the tattoo guy that had tattooed Corey before.
And that was just him. He was just that guy that would do that stuff. So we do the same thing. We walk into funeral homes. The people have never met us before. Well, the funeral home owners have, obviously, but the people that their child has been murdered, they've never met us, and they may never meet us. And we'll walk in and we will hand a check to the person, and we'll turn around and walk back out and never ask for a thank you. And that's because that's how Corey was. Just an I love you from a stranger. That's all we have to do. And that's how we started. It's just I love you from a stranger.
Do they usually know that you're helping? Does someone reach out to you? Or how do you know
They
who to
know.
help?
They know. Usually the funeral home will say, hey, this group will help you. But and usually it's like an aunt or a sister or a cousin, or it's usually not like the mom or the dad or, the closest person. And that's normal. Like I said, I work in insurance, and that's kind of the norm for everybody. It's not going to be the person who is closest to you that's going to call and make the arrangements for the family. It's usually going to be. Go ahead.
They call and we walk them through our referral process that Shelley talked about, and then a day or so later we cut them a check. But when that referral goes out, it automatically goes out to all those other groups, like Shelley said, and that's what makes everything complete. But typically we don't meet the people until maybe they come to our vigil, or when we used to have our in-person grief to relief, they'd come there, but typically we don't meet them.
Or we'll talk to them on the phone for hours.
Yeah, we get some of that too. We get calls all times of the day, all times of night. People just want to talk because they're so distraught from their grief, and they so don't know what to do. And kind of like you guys were saying, the detectives haven't called, and the lawyers haven't called, and they don't know what to do. And it's what we do. We just kind of help them through all that. So one of the random things that happened to us that has really helped us is that website. We were gifted that website.
Oh.
Yeah. A friend of mine who has since passed put us in for a contest to win a website. So it was through, what was the name of that place, babe?
The Nerdery.
Yeah, the Nerdery. So we did our due diligence. We got everybody to vote for us, and we won the website. So we go downtown where the Nerdery was. I think they've closed now. And
they're still there.
Are they?
Yeah.
So we had 10 guys put together the website for us, and we had to stay up all night with them.
24 hours.
Now, rumor has it that Shelley stayed up all night, but I happen to know for a fact that she did fall asleep. However, I stayed up all night with them, and you would be sitting there, and our role was just content. What do you want here? What do you want to do here? What do you want to do there? And although I had experience in websites, I had never thought about how you put one together. And it was really kind of cool the way they did it. But I think that's one of the best random thing that's happened to us since we've started this, is the website.
Well, go ahead.
It allows us to reach many more people, and it also allows us to do the referral system. that nobody else does. I mean, we've gotten so many compliments over that, and even Damon Daniels from Ad Hoc, he said that that was one of the best referral systems he's ever seen, and he was also one of the ones that didn't think we would make it this far either.
He kind of rolled his eyes when I first went in to meet with him, because he hears a lot of people say, we're going to do this, and then they kind of fizzle out after a few years. And here we are 8 years later, still doing it. Would you like to take a look at our website real quick? Or are you good? Or
We can look at it.
So this is actually me and Bob's hands.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
I was thinking that.
And then you've got
Hold up.
our bracelets.
They had some kind of hokey picture and that they had put on there, and I was like, it was one of those stock photos, you pull off the internet. And I was like, we need something way more personal than that. And so what we did is we just recreated the stock picture with our hands instead of the hands they had on the stock picture.
That's nice.
And I thought it was pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah.
It's got our motto, of course, thou shalt not kill, in Corey's network, what we do what we provide, etc. If you come on here, you can see that we can have every language known to man, some of which I think that there's like even Vulcan on here, but I'm not sure. So I'm not going to change that. Like I said, under services, you can go under there. Here is the CNI referral. You do not have to be a CNI board member to make a referral. So if you know of somebody that needs our services, they don't need to have like payment for the funeral. They can just need something like they need counseling or something like that. So if you click on the CNI referral, it goes in with the victim's name and the age, the victim's sex, the date of birth, the location of the crime, and the yes or no for KCK is because we want to know whether or not we're going to send that email to Kansas City, Kansas. Remember when I said if it's a crime in Kansas City, Kansas, it gets sent there. The date of the crime was a victim committing a crime that caused their death. And the reason we do that is because if this is I broke into someone's house and they killed me while I was breaking into their home, we're not able to do anything because we do go by the statutes of crime victims compensation. And then, does the victim have insurance? We try not to pay a portion of some that already have insurance. And the reason why is because we have a limited budget. And if they have insurance, then we're going to let them do that. So if I wanted to, I'm going to say I'm 21, female. Okay. We'll say hold on. Sorry, not good with my.
You're good.
I'm not going to go all the way through and enter it, but then the person who's the contact, that would be me, and my email address, my address, my phone number. I would prefer somebody call me. Relationship to victim, I'm the parent. Would I want to add a secondary contact? So in other words, if I wanted, Bob to be called, I would put one in. No, thanks. Okay. The funeral home, one that we work with a lot is Golden Gate. How'd you hear about us? From the funeral home. Do they have any children under the age of 17? We ask that question because Healing Pathways works only with people under the age of 17. So we would say yes. Please give the age and the sex of the child. We don't ask for the name, and the reason why is because of HIPAA reasons. all the other people that receive this email, they don't need to know what the name of the child is. They just need to know that there were 3 children under the age of 17. So I might have a male 4, a female that's 5, and another male that's 6 months. Any additional information I might want to put here. And then you see Corey's network is affiliated with other agencies that help families with financing of funerals, case management, and victim advocacy. Do we have your permission to share your information with them? If you click yes, then it goes out to all of those different groups that we told you about. I'm not a robot, and submit. So it's a very simple process. You do not have to be in need of finances. You could put in the notes here, do not need finances. You could say just looking for counseling services, or looking to be part of the grief to relief group, looking for, other whatever. And you can still say, yes, I want to be referred to all these other programs. Okay. It's easier than trying to call all of the different programs than it is trying to contact the different programs specifically. And then what I was telling you a minute ago with the resources over here, you can click right here and be brought right to the state statutes. And this is that area where I was telling you about the status of any case concerning a crime against the victim, including juvenile offenses, etc. Right to be informed by local law enforcement agencies, the appropriate juvenile authorities of the availability of victim compensation, assistance, etc. So all of these different things are things that your victims have a right to know. So if they do have a problem, this is the statute that I was telling you that they need to then copy. Okay. If they need to know any legal terms, what does their legal terms mean? So in other words, okay, what's the difference between, a mistrial versus a dismissal? Okay, what is a plea versus a conviction? Okay, those are all in there. Additionally, if you want to know things like part of my own personal journey, I have a blog on here. There's 280 different blog entries on here. Don't believe the myths, talking about there's no such thing as closure and there's no such thing as moving on.
I've read your blog, part of your blog, and I'd like to say you are a good writer.
Thank you. I've written a book. If you're interested, it's on Amazon, and the money goes towards Corey's network.
Okay.
It's called The China Cabinet by Michelle Metje, M-E-T-J-E. That was my name before Bob made me an honest woman. Yeah, took him 18
That was
years.
that was one of the negotiating points too. She had to give up the Metje.
That's the one thing that I'd held out was the Metje. He'd already gotten everything else, so might as well give him the Metje. But anyways, but the China Cabinet on Amazon by Michelle Metje. The money goes towards Corey's network. But yeah, so that is part of our website. Go to our website and check it out. You can find out bio about Bob. You can find out what kind of a guy he really is. You can find out about me. You can find out about our president. I did step down as president.
You did, okay.
President. Bob is no longer vice president. We did that because of my insurance position. I cannot be on the executive board of any kind of a board of directors because of insurance. And that's just part of the insurance laws. I can be on the board of directors. I just can't be the president.
Okay. So you're still on the board of directors?
Yes.
Okay.
And we are the founders. So
You are the founders.
we're
Yes.
we're still kicking ass and taking names.
People do not understand how deep the grief and the anxiety is when you have someone killed in your family.
That's why the number one thing I make sure I never say I understand, because I
Yeah.
think I stay away from that because I'm not in your shoes. I try to put myself in your shoes, but I'm not. And so I stay away from that because I don't. I mean,
Haley, I don't want you to ever understand what I've gone through. What I want you to know is that if you ever have to go through this, I'll be there for you.
thank you.
That's what you need to know from this,
Yes.
is that if you ever go through this, we'll be there. And we have no plans of leaving, and we have no plans of deserting our posts. Sometimes we feel like we want to, but I mean, any soldier feels that way. But it just is hard to try and give up your post when there's so many people that are relying on you now.
You're needed.
When there's 700 people that are relying on you now,
Mhm.
it's impossible to walk away.
Right.
I mean, it would be easy if there were only maybe 20 people that cared or 20 people that needed you, but there are so many people. There's so many people that hurt. And there were 3.5 years we knew who killed Corey. We knew who killed Corey. I told them the night it happened who killed Corey. And they would not ask him, and they would not ask him, and they would not ask him. And instead, they interrogated his younger brother 5 times. And they thought I was an accessory to the crime for 3.5 years. So I understand. We understand. And Haley, I don't ever want you to understand. This is shit. I mean, this is truly shit. And I don't care. You don't have to bleep me out as far as I'm concerned on that one.
No, we won't.
Here's another point. I retired 2 years after Corey was killed, and all my retirement planning that I did before Corey was killed, none of it included being an advocate for homicide victims. None of it. But now here I am. I do the website. I help Shelley with grief to relief. I help whatever needs to be done. I do it. And if you would have told me 10 years, well, not really 10, but if you had told me 20 years ago that this is what I do in my retirement, I'd look at you like you were nuts.
Right.
But this is what I do.
And you do it well.
Well, thank you.
The community thinks, I mean, I can't tell you enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad that we're needed to.
It is sad. It is sad.
That's another point. We'll be in the middle of going somewhere, and we'll get a referral call. You know,
Right.
we were going to Texas to see my family. We were like almost out of cell phone range, and one of the back roads in Texas. We get a referral call.
Wow.
So we take it.
We were in court for our own son's murder. And Bob got a referral call and stood up and walked out of our own son's court hearing so that he could go and take a referral for somebody. Now, I didn't. There was no way I was stepping out, but he did. And
Dedication.
that is dedication.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just dedication to the people, but of course it was dedication to me because he knew that I needed to stay there. But it was dedication to the people that we serve and we love, in that he stood up and walked out and took care of somebody else in their pain. And we will wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. We'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. There are times that I'm texting at 1 o'clock in the morning and Bob's saying, "Come to bed. You have got to get some sleep." And this person's on the other line saying, I don't know if I can make it another day. And I'm trying to explain to them that if you don't make it another day, your family's not going to exist without you. Or I'll get a phone call from a woman who's she knows who the murderer is. She knows who the murderer is, and they are following her on her own street.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you
And-
know who we're talking about.
Yes, I think we do.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to rack my brain. Who can I call? Who can I have her call that's going to be able to come over there? Because Bob is not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it, but somebody else that we know can do it. And of course, that man was able to help her out. But, we get these phone calls from people that, we have families who will move to the other side of the country to get away from this kind of crap.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just insane. It's insane. And these are the people that we love. And if, to other people, it would look like they were crazy. It's like, why would you move from your perfectly good house? Well, because my son literally died in my arms in my master bedroom. How am I going to be able to go into that master bedroom every single day when I work from home and that's my office? The last time I held my son, he was white as paper. His lips were blue. His eyes were rolled back in his head, and he was cold and wet in my arms in my master bedroom. And he died in my master bedroom. And we stayed in that house long enough for his younger sibling to be able to graduate from high school and to go through 2 more years of college. And then we were done. We had to move from that neighborhood. We couldn't do it anymore because we knew that that was the house that Corey died in my arms. And we knew that across the street was where his murderer was. That's where he was killed. And I think I pointed it out to you that that's where he was killed. In that neighborhood where we held the vigil every year.
Mm-hmm.
Every year. And we've done it for 9 years. So, but if, I tell people this all the time. If you were in Walmart and the woman in front of you started screaming and tearing her clothes off and rolling around on the ground and all this other stuff, and the woman behind the register started spraying her down with water, you'd think you were in some kind of nut house, right? But if the woman was on fire, that would be normal. Okay? Well, keep in mind that the people that are acting in this way are acting normal for the situation. Okay, stripping my clothes off in the middle of Walmart and rolling around on the floor is not normal. But if I'm on fire, that is normal. The way that our people and the people that we love and the people we serve, the way that they're acting, that is normal. It's absolutely normal. And we have to quit making them feel like it's not.
Right.
We have to let them understand that it's okay. And I'm going to give you one more analogy, and then I'll let you guys do what you need to do. I'm an analogy queen.
That's fine.
I tell my clients all the time, and most of your watchers, I'm sure, live here in the Kansas City metro area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so most of them are familiar with going to St. Louis, right?
Probably, yes. Yes.
Okay. We all know you only one way there, and that's down 70 highway. Okay. If you were going 70 highway to St. Louis, and you get all the way to Wentzville, which is like 3/4 of the way there, and you see that all of a sudden part of the highway is gone, you have 3 choices. You can continue to drive into the pit, you can turn your car around and go back, or you can follow the detour and go around it and continue the way that you need to go. I compare that to grief and what you need to do in your life. when you have got a situation where you've got grief, you can continue to go into the pit of despair and just be stuck right there for the rest of your life. Or you can turn around and go back, which means that you don't even deal with it. You're just going to ignore it completely and totally, which means that it's never going to be dealt with. You're never going to have anything at all taken care of. Or you can choose to use a detour. And by that, I mean you're going to figure out how you're going to get around this and move forward. You're going to use every healthy tool you can to get around that pit in the road. And you're going to follow the signs. You're going to follow every way that you can. And eventually you're going to continue on to St. Louis. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to finish what you're supposed to finish. What we try to do is provide all of those detour signs, provide you the tools that you need to be able to continue on your journey. What we try to do is be able to help you through this terrible, terrible journey that you're going to have to go through. And I'm sorry, there is no way through it. You can fall into that pit. If you fall into that pit, terrible things happen. We have seen people that have gone to the point where they have had to pay, they paid retribution, where they've killed somebody because they could not deal with the homicide that had happened in their family. We have seen people that have tried to kill themselves. We have had one person who did kill themselves. We have had terrible, terrible stories, but it's because they chose to go into the pit. We've had other people that just refuse to deal with it. So they've moved to the other side of the country because they just can't deal with it here. And then we have other people that choose to listen and to use the tools that we try to give them. And they listen to us about how to deal with your investigator and how to deal with the court prosecutors and how to talk to them and how to win some form of your control back. And that's what it really boils down to, because I'm the one who breastfed Corey. I bathed him, I diapered him, I brought him to school, I brought him to karate, I did everything I could possibly do for this child, and in one fell swoop, and actually two, because he got stabbed twice. All of that was stolen from me. And when it was stolen from me, I lost all control, and I had to learn how to get it back. And that's what we're trying to do, is help everyone that we can possibly touch get that control back. We want to help you find those detours so you can continue forward in your life and not fall into the pit and not have to escape. And that's what Corey's Network is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.